Life doesn't slow down when we get older. It simply becomes quieter. And in that quiet, we finally hear the truth. We hear the sound of our own heartbeat. We hear the echo of the choices we made. We hear the weight of the years behind us. And the gift of the day is still ahead. Getting older is not a punishment. It is a privilege that many never receive. But the question is not how long you live. The question is how well you live. Regret is quiet at first. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It shows up late at night when the room is dark and the world is asleep. It sits beside you and replays moments you wish you could erase. The words you didn't say, the chances you didn't take, the people you pushed away. Regret doesn't ask permission. It walks into your memories and rearranges the past. It paints every mistake bigger than it was. It makes every wrong turn feel like the end of the road. And when you get older, regret becomes heavier because now you don't just remember what happened. You remember what could have happened. You think about the dream you left behind because it felt too risky. The person you loved but were too afraid to fight for. The apology you never gave because pride stood in the way. You remember the days you told yourself, I'll do it later, and later never came. Regret tells you that you ran out of time, that your story is already written, that your best days are behind you. But regret is a liar. It pretends to be wisdom. It pretends to be truth. But it is only fear wearing a familiar face. The truth is, you did not know then what you know now. You did not have the strength you have today. You did not have the clarity you have earned through pain. You were learning, you were surviving, you were becoming. You made choices with the heart you had at the time, with the courage you had at the time, with the understanding you had at the time. And sometimes life doesn't give you perfect options. Sometimes it gives you two hard roads and asks you to choose. So you chose the one you could walk. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. Regret wants you to punish yourself for being human. It wants you to believe that one mistake defines your entire life. But a single chapter is not the whole book. You are more than your failures. You are more than your missed chances. You are more than your worst day. There were moments you were brave. There were moments you were kind. There were moments you stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. But regret never shows you those moments. It only shows you the scars. It never reminds you how far you've come. It only reminds you of where you stumbled. And the danger is not the past. The danger is living in it. Because when you live in yesterday, you miss today. You miss the people still here. You miss the time still yours. You miss the breath still in your lungs. You carry regret long enough, and it starts to change how you walk, how you speak, how you look at yourself. You stop believing you deserve happiness. You stop believing you deserve peace. You start thinking you have to pay for every mistake forever. But life never asked you to suffer for being imperfect. Life only asked you to learn. The calmest people in old age are not the ones who live perfect lives. They are the ones who made peace with their past. They look back with understanding, not anger, with compassion, not shame. They say, I did what I could, and they mean it. They don't wish for another life. They don't beg for another chance. They use the one they still have. Because every morning you wake up is proof that your story is not finished. There is still time to love better. There is still time to speak honestly. There is still time to live with intention. You cannot go back and change who you were, but you can choose who you become. And when you forgive your younger self, something changes inside you. Your shoulders get lighter. Your chest gets warmer. Your breath gets deeper. You stop fighting ghosts. You stop chasing moments that are already gone. You start standing where you are. You start seeing the beauty of now. Regret fades when you accept that your life was not a mistake. It was a journey filled with lessons, a journey filled with growth, a journey filled with strength you didn't know you had. You survived days that once felt unbearable. You healed from wounds you thought would never close. You stood back up when life tried to break you. That is not failure. That is courage. And courage deserves forgiveness. Forgive yourself for the road you didn't take. Forgive yourself for the love you didn't give. Forgive yourself for the dreams you let go of. You were doing the best you could with the heart you had. And the heart you have now is wiser. The The past cannot be rewritten, but it can be released. And when you finally let go of regret, you make room for peace. Pride feels strong when you are young. It makes you stand taller. It makes you speak louder. It makes you believe that bending means breaking. You learn early that the world respects power, that being right matters, that losing means weakness. So you build walls instead of bridges. You raise your voice instead of opening your heart. And for a long time, it feels like strength. But time has a way of teaching different lessons. You start to notice how heavy pride becomes, how it tightens your chest, how it keeps you awake, how it turns small disagreements into long wars. You remember arguments that never really ended, relationships that cracked and never healed, silence that lasted longer than it should have, all because no one wanted to be the first to say, I'm sorry. Pride tells you that you must win. Peace asks you to understand. Pride tells you to stand your ground. Peace asks you to soften your heart. There's a moment in life when you realize that being right feels empty if it costs you someone you love. There's a moment when you realize that proving a point is not worth losing, a connection. And that moment usually comes with age. You begin to see that not every opinion needs to be defended. Not every insult needs a response. Not every challenge needs a fight. Some battles steal more than they give. They steal your energy. They steal your calm. They steal your joy. You start to notice how peaceful people move differently. They listen more than they speak. They pause before they react. They choose their words carefully. They don't rush to correct. They don't rush to judge. They don't rush to dominate. They carry themselves with quiet confidence. They know that strength does not need noise. Peace is not weakness. Peace is control. It is knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It is knowing when to stand and when to step back. It is knowing that walking away can be braver than staying to fight. There is a deep freedom in no longer needing to prove yourself, no longer needing applause, no longer needing validation, no longer needing to be seen as superior. You stop measuring your worth through other people's eyes. You stop tying your identity to winning arguments. You become comfortable in your own skin. You understand that people see the world through their own pain, their own fears, their own experiences. You learn that disagreement is not disrespect. That difference is not danger. You learn that most people are not against you. They are just trying to survive their own battles. And when you see that, compassion replaces anger. You soften, not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to let go. The older you get, the more you realize how short life really is, how quickly moments pass, how fragile relationships can be, how easily time slips through your hands. You stop wanting to waste your days in tension. You stop wanting to carry bitterness in your heart. You want laughter. You want connection. You want warmth. You want a life that feels light. Peace becomes more valuable than pride. A calm night becomes more valuable than a loud victory. A warm conversation becomes more valuable than a cold silence. You learn that humility opens doors that pride keeps locked. You learn that kindness disarms anger. You learn that listening can heal wounds that words once created. You stop trying to control people. You stop trying to change them. You accept them. And in accepting them, you free yourself. Because pride builds walls, but peace builds homes. Homes where love can breathe. Homes where forgiveness can live. Homes where hearts can rest. And when you choose peace over pride, you choose a life that feels gentle instead of heavy. A life that feels open instead of closed. A life that feels warm instead of cold. A life that finally feels like home. There's a quiet danger in waking up with nothing to look forward to. No reason to get dressed. No reason to leave the house. No reason to feel needed. At first, it feels like rest, like finally slowing down, like freedom. But slowly, that stillness turns heavy. The days begin to blend together. The mornings feel longer. The nights feel emptier. You start asking yourself, what am I useful for now? And that question cuts deeper than any pain in the body. Because purpose is not about work. It is about meaning. It is about knowing that your presence matters, that your voice matters, that your life still carries value. The people who grow old with calm in their eyes never stop having a reason to wake up. They don't wait for the world to call them. They go out and touch the world. They volunteer. They teach. They guide. They build. They care. They find small ways to feel big inside. Purpose doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be famous. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be yours. It can be watering plants in the morning, walking a neighbor's dog, reading to a child, cooking for someone who needs a warm meal. It can be learning a new skill, writing your story, passing on your wisdom. When you stay purposeful, your days have shape, have direction, they have color. You stop counting time, you start filling it, you stop watching life, you start participating in it. The body may slow down, but the heart does not have to. The hands may shake, but they can still create. The voice may soften, but it can still guide. You are not finished just because you are older. You are not done just because your hair is gray. You carry stories no book can teach. You carry lessons no school can give. You carry strength that only life can build. And when you share that, you stay alive inside. There is a spark in doing, a warmth in helping, a joy in contributing. It reminds you that you are still part of the world, that the world still needs you. Without purpose, the mind turns inward. It begins to focus on pain, on loss, on loneliness. With purpose, the mind looks outward. It looks for solutions. It looks for opportunities. It looks for connection. You start to notice beauty again in the way the sun hits the window, in the way laughter fills a room, in the way small kindnesses change a day. Purpose keeps your spirit young. It keeps your heart open. It keeps your soul moving. You stop seeing age as a limit. You start seeing it as a strength. You have time now, time to reflect, time to grow, time to give, and time is the greatest gift. The people who stay purposeful do not fear the future. They build it. They do not wait to be invited. They show up. They do not wait for motivation. They create it. They understand that life is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose to engage with. And every morning becomes a decision to rise, to move, to contribute, even on hard days, even when the body is tired, even when the weather is cold. Because purpose is stronger than excuses. It pulls you forward when comfort tries to hold you back. It gives you a reason to keep going when the road feels long. It reminds you that your story is still being written. And as long as there is breath in your lungs, there is work for your heart. There is love to give. There is wisdom to share. There is light to pass on. Staying purposeful is not about refusing to grow old. It is about refusing to fade. The mind is the place where you live long before your body ever moves. It is where your fears grow. It is where your hopes survive. It is where your memories sleep. And as the years pass, the world becomes louder, but the mind becomes more fragile. You start to notice how quickly a bad thought can take over your day, how easily worry steals your sleep, how fear creeps in when silence gets too long. The strongest people in old age are not the ones with the strongest bodies. They are the ones with the strongest minds. They protect their thoughts. They choose what enters their inner world. They understand that the mind is like a garden. If you leave it unattended, weeds grow. Worry becomes habit. Doubt becomes comfort. Loneliness becomes identity. But when you tend your mind, it blooms. A strong mind does not mean never feeling sad. It means knowing how to rise after sadness. It does not mean never feeling afraid. It means not letting fear decide your life. The mind grows tired when it is not challenged. It grows weak when it is not fed. It grows restless when it is not given peace. The people who live calm lives keep their minds active. They read books that make them think. They ask questions that stretch their understanding. They learn new things that make their world feel bigger. They refuse to let their minds shrink as their bodies slow. They do not say, I'm too old to learn. They say, I still have so much to discover. Our curiosity becomes their fuel, and curiosity keeps the heart young. A strong mind also knows when to rest. It knows when to step away from noise, when to turn off the television, when to put the phone down. Silence becomes a friend. In silence, you meet yourself. You hear your own breath. You feel your own presence. You remember who you are beneath the roles you played. The calmest people spend time alone without feeling lonely. They use solitude to reflect, to pray, to breathe. They make space for stillness, and in that stillness, the mind heals. They also watch what they feed their thoughts. They don't fill their days with anger and bad news. They don't let negativity live rent-free in their head. They choose music that lifts them. They choose stories that inspire them. They choose conversations that nourish them. They protect their peace like it is sacred, because it is. A strong mind also practices gratitude. It trains itself to notice what is good, a warm cup of tea, a message from a friend, quiet afternoon. It finds beauty in small moments. And over time, the mind learns where to look for joy. It stops searching for what is missing. It starts appreciating what is here. The mind also needs movement, not just of the body, but of thought. Writing, drawing, puzzles, games, anything that keeps the mind dancing. Because when the mind moves, it stays alive. And when it stays alive, it stays hopeful. The people who age with peace do not surrender their minds to time. They strengthen them. They speak kindly to themselves. They forgive themselves. They encourage themselves. They become their own best friend. They refuse to become prisoners of their past. They refuse to let old wounds define new days. They carry their memories with wisdom, not weight. They understand that the mind can be trained, that thoughts can be changed. That peace is a practice. And every day they choose it. They wake up and choose calm over chaos. They choose patience over panic. They choose faith over fear. They do not wait for the world to bring them peace. They create it inside. And when the mind becomes a safe place, life becomes a gentle place. There comes a time in life when you realize that not everyone who walks beside you is meant to walk with you forever. Some people are lessons. Some are seasons. Some are memories, and only a few are home. When you are young, you collect people, friends, colleagues, crowds, noise. You believe more is better. You believe being surrounded means being loved. But as the years pass, you learn that loneliness is not about being alone. It is about being with the wrong people. You can sit in a room full of voices and still feel invisible. You can laugh in a crowd and still feel empty. The calmest older people understand this deeply. They stop chasing attention. They stop performing for approval. They stop exhausting themselves trying to belong. They begin choosing who belongs. They learn that peace is built by the company you keep. Some people drain you the moment they speak. Their words carry tension. Their presence carries weight. Their energy leaves you tired. Other people lift you without trying. They listen. They understand. They sit with you in silence and make it feel warm. These are the people worth protecting, the people worth calling, the people worth keeping close. As life moves forward, you start to value depth over numbers. One real conversation becomes more valuable than 100 empty ones. One loyal friend becomes more powerful than 1,000 strangers. You stop needing to explain yourself to everyone. You stop needing to defend your choices. You find comfort in being understood without speaking. The older you get, the more you realize how fragile time is, how quickly people come and go, how suddenly chairs become empty, how voices turn into memories. And when that happens, you understand that relationships are not permanent. They must be nurtured. They must be protected. They must be respected. The calmest people do not allow toxic connections to poison their hearts. They walk away from manipulation. They walk away from disrespect. They walk away from constant conflict, not because they don't care, but because they care about their peace. They understand that love should feel safe, friendship should feel gentle, family should feel supportive. They do not stay where they are constantly wounded. They choose environments where they can breathe. They also learn to forgive, not to reopen doors that hurt them, but to free themselves from carrying anger. Because holding resentment keeps people in your life even after they've left. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom. They make room for people who show up, who call, who check in, who remember. They value consistency over promises, presence over words. They understand that real love is quiet. It sits with you when the world feels heavy. It listens when your voice shakes. It stays when life gets hard. And when you find those people, you protect them. You call them more often. You spend time with them. You tell them what they mean to you. Because one day you may wish you had. The people who live calm lives do not isolate themselves. They connect intentionally. They create small circles filled with trust. They build spaces where laughter lives, where stories are shared, where silence feels comfortable, where tears are safe. They know the human connection is medicine. It heals wounds no doctor can touch. It softens days that feel too long. It reminds you that you matter. And in return, they become that safe place for others. They listen without rushing. They support without judging. They love without conditions. They understand that relationships are not about perfection. They are about patience, about showing up even when it's inconvenient, about staying even when it's uncomfortable. They choose people who grow with them, who respect their boundaries, who celebrate their peace. And slowly, their circle becomes smaller, but stronger, quieter, warmer, more real. They stop chasing crowds. They start building homes made of trust, homes made of kindness, homes made of understanding. And inside those homes, their hearts finally rest. Gratitude changes the way you see everything. It turns ordinary mornings into gifts. It turns simple meals into blessings. It turns quiet moments into memories. When you are young, you chase more money, more success, more recognition. You believe happiness lies somewhere ahead. But as the years pass, you learn that happiness was always around you. It was in the people who loved you. It was in the days you survived. It was in the strength that carried you through storms. Gratitude opens your eyes to what is already yours. The calmest people in old age are not the ones who have the most. They are the ones who appreciate the most. They wake up and thank life for another day. They look at the sky and feel wonder. They breathe deeply and feel alive. They do not rush past moments. They sit with them. They taste their food slowly. They enjoy their tea. They watch the sunset like it is a miracle, because to them it is. Gratitude softens the heart. It loosens the grip of bitterness. It quiets the voice of complaint. It replaces frustration with peace. You begin to notice beauty in places you once ignored. The sound of rain, the warmth of sunlight, the comfort of a familiar room. You stop focusing on what hurts. You start noticing what heals. Gratitude also changes how you see people. You stop expecting perfection. You start appreciating effort. You thank those who stand by you. You forgive those who fall short. You understand that everyone is fighting their own battle. And that makes you gentler. When you live with gratitude, even loss teaches you. It teaches you to cherish. It teaches you to remember. It teaches you to love deeper. You no longer take moments for granted. You understand how quickly they pass, and that makes them precious. Gratitude keeps your spirit light. It lifts the weight of worry. It softens the edge of fear. It brings calm into restless minds. It reminds you that even in hard days, something good still exists. A kind word, a warm hug, a shared laugh. Small things that carry great power. The grateful heart does not deny pain. It simply refuses to let pain be the whole story. Acknowledges the scars, but it celebrates the survival. It remembers the tears, but it honors the strength. The grateful mind does not live in the past. It learns from it. It does not fear the future. It trusts life. It does not complain about aging. It respects it, because growing old means you lived. It means you endured. It means you were chosen by time to keep going. Gratitude turns age into honor. It turns wrinkles into history. It turns gray hair into wisdom. It turns every breath into a blessing. You stop asking, why me? You start saying, thank you. Thank you for the days I was strong. Thank you for the nights I survived. Thank you for the love I received. Thank you for the lessons I learned. You become content, not because life is perfect, but because life is real, and real life is enough. Gratitude brings peace. It brings acceptance. It brings joy. It allows you to sit with your life and say, I am thankful for all of it. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the painful, because every part of it shaped you. And you are still here, still breathing, still feeling, still living. And that is something to be grateful for.